How we doing, everybody? Tonight I've got Mark and we've got Dave in, special guest. Dave's done some great research into some of the flat earth theories and the history behind that. Me and Mark have also done that over the years. We're not really on any side of the fence, and this video is not to prove or disprove either side. It's just a good old talk amongst three men that all know different bits of information. We've not discussed anything in particular about any of the information we all know. We're going to cover a few bits, and it'll help give everyone an idea of what sort of things you might want to look into if you were trying to decipher what side of the fence with the flat earth or globe earth, if you was going to be on one. And none of it matters towards where we are today. There's bigger problems going on that we're all trying to address, of course, right now in our lives. This is just a friendly chat about it. Obviously, everybody knows Mark, and I'm going to introduce Dave. How you doing, Dave? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you doing.
Yeah, hi there. I'm Dave. I'm known as allegedly Dave online. I guess I'm a researcher. I've been sort of researching stuff since 9/11, and that kind of leads, 9/11 led into all sorts of different things, like going down the rabbit hole. I first came across flat Earth back in the summer of 2014. I'm just, again, I'm just an ordinary bloke. I'm not anything special, but I came across this idea. Somebody was talking about the Bedford Levels experiment, so I got interested, and I realized it was about flat Earth, and I thought, let me turn this off. This is rubbish. But what it did tell me was the calculation to figure out how much curvature should obscure an object a certain distance away, and it was 8 inches per mile squared. Okay. Very simple. It's like for a circle, a sphere of a circumference of 25,000 miles, the easy calculation is 8 inches per mile squared. Right. So when when they were talking about Bedford Levels, it was over 6 miles, and the curvature, what was hidden over that 6 miles, was something like 16 feet. And I thought, hang on a second, that must make the Earth really, really small. If over 6 miles, 16 feet is obscure, the Earth, that can't be right. So I got AutoCAD. I was a CAD draftsman at one point. So I got AutoCAD. I drew up a 25,000 mile circle, put two objects, 6 foot high, 6 miles apart, and calculated how much that would be hidden, and it worked out roughly the same. So I thought, oh, okay. So armed with that calculation, I went down to Plymouth Hoe, and I knew that there was a lighthouse called the Eddystone Lighthouse, which was 8 miles away. And according to that calculation, the bottom 32 feet of that lighthouse should have been hidden by the physical curvature of the Earth. Okay, so I got my camera. I was right at the water, and I zoomed in on that lighthouse, and I could see the bottom of that lighthouse where the water met the rocks. So where was the curvature? I was like, that's what got me. Wow, I'm gonna have to look into this. And no matter how much I tried, I couldn't find any curvature. So that launched me into it.
Yeah, when you got the same argument for the Suez Canal of what's been in recent use, there's a massive long picture of that, and it's just dead flat. I myself, I'm not either or. On flat Earth or round Earth, to me, it doesn't matter. It can be shaped like a baboon. Is what's happening on the Earth at the moment. That's the actual thing. But you see throughout time, you see throughout history and everything, it's always twisted one way, and then it's pulled back the other way. Then it's pulled back the other way. They seem to want to put some sort of mass confusion out there, so we never ever figure this out fully. I.e. using curved lenses, sending them up in space. People say, oh yeah, that's what makes the Earth round, because you look out of a plane window and you can see the curvature, and it causes that effect. we don't know for sure if it is or not. That's the problem with it. You know, you don't know how manipulating it's being. It seems that even things that they're trying to prove with it manipulate the fact and put questions in your head. Is that actually like that, or isn't it not? You know, and that's very much the picture they portray throughout history.
Sure.
Yeah,
But
I can say, for me, most of my life, I would always, well, going back for quite a few years, I was definitely very, very strong opinionated on it, and it was always with the sphere, going off lots of theories, i.e., the most energy sufficient object we can think of or shape would be a sphere. So if it's an equal pressure to something from all sides, it would create a sphere. So in planetary science, cosmology and stuff, when they talk about things that way, to me, I would understand that easy, but then I struggled with the other theories. And then I started looking at the ancient scriptures and scrolls, and you see lots of things about the different realms and how many planetary levels we have. And there was so much there. I thought, well, hang on, I believe in what I'm seeing with the history, but then these things are thrown in their idea of what the Earth was. It really confused me. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. And then I looked through history, and I know two of the great people that we've mentioned in some of my recent videos, Mark, to do with ancient alchemies and stuff, Pythagoras and Plato, were both very big, strong players in creating the image of the globe, Earth, from then on. Even though it changed again after that and it went back and forth, but they were two very big, strong players that helped try to create ways of proving them things. But as we know, they were big players with the elite. And that's why, you know, they were always remembered, because they got to choose how they were remembered and whatnot. So it left me to think, well, hang on a minute. I'm not, the amount of things I've had to change in my knowledge over the last year, because of realising how bad the world we've been lied to about everything. This is something I thought we've definitely got to talk about, because, you know, I want to learn a bit more to see if there's anything behind it. And obviously, yeah, with Dave, he seems to have done lots of research. So here he is. And have you heard about anything to do with the Pythagoras or Plato's theories and stuff? And
not really, because you know, what's been happening is that, you know, the world knew the Earth was flat. Okay, as you do, you know the Earth is flat because your senses tell you we're flat and motionless. Okay, you know, you go to a beach and you see the sea is flat. Yeah, you stand still and you know you're not whizzing around at 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah, that's your senses telling you this is where we are. You have to be taught otherwise. Yeah, that's the point. So yeah, Pythagoras and people like that have been throughout the ages trying to convince people that no, your senses are wrong. You know, my calculations say it's this. It never got any traction until about 500 years ago, when this bloodline took over. So, you know, that's the point. I came from where you came from. Yeah, I mean, I learned the same stuff as you did, and I believed it just as you know, everybody else does. But the point is, I did the thing that most people don't, is actually ask the questions that we asked when we were children, and we never went back to. Right? And one of the things that makes it a strong, you know, makes you sort of want to pursue it further, is that when you do ask those questions, the answers you get back don't make any sense. Yeah. And you know, you diffuse one of their answers and they come back with something completely different, that, you know, out of left field. So okay, you know, where did that come from?
Well, I had a situation a few weeks ago, because obviously I had a bit of a conversation with someone regarding flat Earth, and they were very strong in the belief and probably didn't address it correctly at the time. And a few things have been said to me where, again, I looked into it. Lots of people sent me videos to look into. I spent hours and hours looking over stuff. And then I went to go and pick my daughter up from school. And something happened for the first time in my life, guys. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to start thinking too much about which one I believe. I'm going to tell you something that happened, guys. So I got it on video. And to me, it's been a great example of trying to understand something that now I can't really understand unless I accept the flat Earth theories with something. The sun. Now, I know what we're told about how far the sun is away from the Earth. Now, I do this with a torch And I've even done it with a torch that's the same size as a ball, which is obviously not the case with the Earth and the Sun if we're told by science. And by right, you'd get light equally around. Now, if it's slightly spread in the atmospheres, slightly changed angles of light, no problem. What happened to me when I was at my daughter's school was very, very strange. So I'm stood there waiting for her to come out, and I'm looking around, and the clouds are quite, it's quite cloudy. And I'm looking to the distance over there, and all of a sudden I thought, hang on a minute. I see sun rays in one small area coming through dead straight to the ground, then on a slight angle, then a bit of angle, then a real far angle, and there's no rays coming through any clouds anywhere in sight. Now, I got it on video because I freaked out. I thought, hang on a minute, that looks like the sun's just above the clouds, which I know is not quite the case, but maybe it's not as far as what I would have known for my science to add up. Now,
because of the degree of angle.
Yeah, I'll try and get the video so you can see if it shows on an angle, but I don't know if it's going to work very well because it's on a smash phone, but I don't even... You put a bit of press play anyway, but hopefully... Oh, no, you can't see from there. I'll get it onto this phone sensor at some point. I'm going to pull it up because it was great, but you see the rays in the space of one field going on real far angles and then slightly and then slightly and then down, but nowhere else in sight across all the land could I see any sun rays coming through. That really confused me. I thought, well, that doesn't quite add up to what you'd expect.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, regarding the sun, people can turn around and question, well, if the Earth is completely flat, then the sun would be, when it's light in Australia and it's dark here, and it's dark in Australia and it's light here, how does that work on a flat Earth? Because you would have light radiating from some way or source, or it would be dark everywhere or light everywhere. So how would you explain that?
Well, let me just speak to Ricardo's point there for a second. The thing is, according to the globe Earth model, as you say, the sun's 93 million miles away, according to them, right? Which means all the light that arrives here should be parallel. Yeah, because it's so far away, all the light should come down from the same direction. Yeah. So what you see, right, what you observed, it goes against that model completely.
It did.
Right? Because all the light should really all come down at the same, straight angle. Yeah. In fact, one of the experiments you talked about, you didn't talk about, but from now back in those days, was called Eratosthenes, and he put a stick in the ground in Alexandria and another one in Syene, right, at the same moment apparently, and over one stick the sun was directly overhead, so there was no shadow, and then 400 miles away there was a shadow, and from that he said he could calculate the Earth, the size of the Earth.
It's Syene to Alexandria. It's called the Test Stadia, and it was 7 degrees, and it was 300 BC. They did that. Now that's to do with the same sort of theories that I was on about earlier, Plato and Pythagoras. So what you're saying there, yeah, is definitely what I'd come across. Right.
That's the point, though, of that is that the light has to be coming down at parallel for that to work, right? Otherwise, if it's coming down at angles, right, then that means that the calculation is going to be off, and the Earth is going to be really, really small. Yeah.
I mean, over that distance, it'd be a millionth of a degree, wouldn't it? It'd be a millionth of a degree. But if that distance was there, it'd be like really, really a tiny angle. You just wouldn't even notice it.
So I'm picturing the size of the Earth, and I'm picturing for what I'd know. But when I was at the school that day and looking across in the distance, and that confused me, even though there's light generally everywhere from where I could see. And I imagine at the same time on my watch, people in Scotland and in Wales were having light as well. But the distance itself is what didn't make sense. So, of course, I can't be in loads of different places to do a test, but it's very interesting. People should always keep an eye out now for the clouds.
The point is, though, that means that, for that experiment to work, the light has to come down parallel. Yeah. We do not see that in observation. Yeah. We've never, ever seen light all coming down in one direction. Right. So that example is invalid. It doesn't work because it's based on something we don't see in nature, right? To go to your point about, the the sun being, say, over Europe and not being able to be seen in Australia on a flat Earth. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So in the flat Earth model, as he disappeared, things flat Earth table, and the Earth is sort of you know, in the flat Earth model, I think about 20,000 miles across. So imagine a tabletop 2 meters across. Let's scale it down. Okay. At that scale, right? If you had a tiny light bulb that was, I think it's 3.1 millimeters across, yeah, but very, very bright, and you held that that light bulb 31 centimeters above the table, yeah, in one corner, yeah, literally what you'd see is a pool of light on the table, you know, directly under that bulb.
Yeah.
On the other side of the table, it will still be in darkness. Okay, which means the light is physically. Sorry.
That would be the case with a torch, a direct beam torch.
No,
that's presumably...
no. Imagine being in a dark room with a light bulb in your hand, yeah, and you put the light bulb next to a wall, yeah. You'll see a pool of light on the wall, but further away, you won't see any light. The wall will still be dark because physically the light isn't reaching that tabletop or that wall. Yeah, literally it doesn't. So that's literally it. Now, some people might argue if you put your eye next to the tabletop on the other side of the table, or I can still see the light. But at that scale, right? Let's imagine your eye, your pupil is 1 centimeter above the table. Well, that would equate to 100 miles at that scale. 100 miles up, yes, 100 miles up, you'll see it, right? Now, there was a rocket launch, an amateur rocket launch called the Go Fast rocket. Okay, it was launched in the Mojave Desert, or New Mexico. New Mexico, and it went up 75 miles, right? And you know, we watched, the flat earthers were watching this rocket launch. It went up 75 miles, and it was spinning wildly as it went up. And when you freeze framed that spinning rocket, when it got up to 75 miles, you could see the moon off in the distance. Now, one of the flat earthers actually went on to timeanddate.com to find out where the moon was at that moment. And it was over Australia, which means, you know, if it was on the other side of a ball, you would not have been able to see the moon. But literally, if you were 100 or 75 miles up, of course, yes, you'd be able to see it across the plane. Just as, you know, your eye being 100 miles up would see that light bulb over the table. Does that make any sense? I'm not sure I'm making sense.
It does in a way. I'm just going off the fact of light, you know, in order of views. I mean, I've stood in pitch black. I've done it twice in my life. I've stood out in the middle of Australia where there's no street lights, there's no nothing, and it's absolutely pitch black. Like literally, you've just got the stars there. You haven't got any on the horizon. There's no light emanating at all, not one little drop of it. I've also had the same experience in the middle of Portugal, where I've been that far away, like literally 70, 80 miles out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And there is no light emanating anywhere around me. Now, I understand your theory of like a light bulb in the corner of the room, but if the sun is at a certain height, for it to be a direct beam down, yes, of course, you wouldn't see the light over the other side. But if the sun is emanating light in all directions as a planet, as a round planet, then you would of course see light emanating. Should it be?
You know, you won't, because again, a light bulb near a wall in a dark room. Yeah, what you see is the pool of light around where the light bulb is, but way over there, maybe 5 feet away, you're not going to see anything on the wall. The wall's going to be dark. Simply,
No,
even
I'm
though
just
it's
talking.
above the wall.
Oh, I'm not talking about light flashing off the floor or lighting up an area, but where I stood in Australia, you could literally see for
I know.
forever. It was
I
out
know.
in the middle. It was out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
It was just flat for, I don't know, 50. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just
I
saying,
understand.
like 50 miles, you could see flat. You could see all the horizons around
All
you,
right,
and I couldn't see
imagine this.
any sunlight emanate.
Imagine this then. Imagine you're in a long corridor, okay?
Mm.
And that corridor is a mile long and it's straight, okay? And the only light bulb that's on, right? You're in a dark corridor. The only light bulb is 1 mile away on, over, on the roof, a mile away, okay? You won't see that light, okay? Just because of the way your eyes work, yeah? All right? You will not see that light. It'll be beyond your vanishing point. Right.
Mm.
So now imagine walking towards that light bulb. Right.
Yeah.
What would happen is you would see that the end of the tunnel is getting a bit lighter. Yeah. Eventually you'll see a point of light on the horizon. Right. As you keep going towards it, that light on the horizon is going to get higher and higher and higher until it's right over your head.
Mm.
Right. And if you were to walk backwards away from that light, it would go down and down in your field of view until it hit the horizon and then disappeared.
Can I just say, for those who don't know, basically, if you haven't seen before, guys, there's an imagery of there's quite a few different imageries for flat Earth, but the most common one I've seen shows like the Antarctica being spread round the circle. If you imagine looking at a plate, shows it being around the whole edge, and it's like a big high wall. Apparently, it's all guarded. We can't go there and whatnot. But after that, apparently, there's like another realm, sort of similar thing, isn't there? Where it's like, further out. Or do you not see that side? Do you not believe that side? Or what is it you've come across with that?
Well, I don't tend to engage in speculation so much, but we don't know what's really going on beyond that. What we do know is that Antarctica is a 200-foot wall of ice that you encounter, right? And then something like 300 miles of ice plain, followed by about 2 mile high mountains called the Rockefeller Mountains. And beyond that, the only person who knows anything really is a guy called Admiral Byrd. And when he did a military expedition. He went there 3 times, but the last time was a military expedition. He took lots of personnel, loads of planes, and he went exploring. Okay, he came back after a couple of weeks, even though the mission was supposed to be a few months long. Yeah, he came back after a few weeks with half the planes missing. All right, he went on television and said they found a whole continent on the other side of the South Pole, supposedly, the size of America. That was had unlimited coal, unlimited oil, lots of minerals, everything. And he said, yeah, we're definitely going to go back and get all that stuff because it's all just lying there, right?
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime, because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the world. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the winter.
well,
It was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there. The Antarctic continent is surrounded by a belt of ice, frozen seas of at least 1,200 miles thick. Now, the south is a plateau. It gets, in some places, 14,000 feet up. I've been over areas about 13,000, and it's a little bit chilly up there. So there's that big difference between the top and bottom of the world. The north really isn't very cold up there on the Arctic Ocean.
not compared to South.
But then they locked it all off. They said, nope, nobody's going back there. Yeah. And the other thing, two things about that. The next year, the Encyclopedia Americana, I think it's from 1958. If you look up Antarctica, it says there's a dome at 13,000 feet. Just, you can go and look it up. Yeah. So if you imagine, right, there's a dome over the Earth, and at the edge, that dome starts to taper down to the end, right? So
I've seen this. I've seen it.
13,000 feet. They were hitting planes against the dome, right?
This is Truman Show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Truman
So
Show.
guess what they did? As soon as Admiral Byrd came back, America and Russia started firing nuclear missiles straight up. Right? The American project was called Project Fishbowl. Now, Operation Fishbowl and Project Dominic. And if you look up the word Dominic comes from Domini, which means of the Lord. Fishbowl of the Lord. So they were firing these missiles up, and you can go and find the footage of these nuclear explosions. And what you'll see is, what you'd expect to see of a mid-air explosion is a kind of fireball that expands in all directions, and especially upwards because of the heat. Yeah. But what you actually see is an explosion, a blast explosion coming out is a ring, as if it's exploding against something.
Wow.
Go and look it up. You can go and find it on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes,
So they were.
Certainly will.
So
Perhaps we can find the link and
basically
post it afterwards, just so people can see these sort of things. I mean, we're here talking about certain things, and you're putting up references, and me and Richard are familiar with some. Not all the things you bring out, because you're bringing a lot to the table. But it would be good to post some links referring to it afterwards, so people can see for themselves, maybe, or if Ben wants to get on it, he's watching.
Here's one then, guys. One of the things I used to always use against people that followed the flat earth when I'd have debates with them, because that's what I used to do. I'm not debating anymore. We have a chat, good old talk. Because I know this subject is one of them. It's not, going to change the world today with who's running us and all the bad things that are going on. So, but what I'd written down was here, the four pillars, the four corners. Now, I know, especially through recently doing a video of our friend, that he mentioned that in 1306, the Pope designed the four corners of the earth, flat earth theory, for paperwork to kind of have over man, because you need to have the paper, and that turned us from a 3D being to a 2D. I suppose the corporation that they have us as today, this dead entity, whatever they designed for us. So I know it's all deep, but what's your understanding with the four? Do you think it's corners, round? What's the deal with it? There's no edge, it's just the old wall, and that's it. Because the ancient pictures, obviously, I know are a bit more far-fetched. They show you water coming over the edges, which is obviously not the case.
No. Well, it's definitely not water over the edges. It's more like, a lake. Okay, you live like in the middle of a lake. So in the center of the lake is the North Pole. There's all these islands in the lake around the North Pole, and when you get to the edge, you get to the 200-foot wall of ice, which is the shore. And beyond that shore, as I said, very few or probably nobody knows what's beyond that. Okay, so I'm not going to speculate. And so I don't know about what the Pope is saying, right? I don't know what's beyond that, right? All I know is like, you know, we don't live on this ball. We've got this. We live in a lake, essentially.
It's very interesting because I mean, Richard brings up about like the maps that have been designed over time. I know it got redrawn in the 1500s. You know, it was part of the Tales of King Arthur. You know, my mate again, but he redrew the map of the world and he made it into a three-dimensional shape after it previously being a flat Earth. So it keeps twisting and turning all the time. I mean, there's even calls for people out there saying it's donut shaped. You know, you've got a hole in the North Pole, no hole in the South Pole, and you've got Agartha in the middle. You know, you've got an inner Earth inside an inner Earth. There's calls for that as well. I mean, it's really intriguing how they've really sort of twisted it. I mean, it could all by all means be flat, and there's levels underneath it. We don't know. We don't actually know what's on the underside or underneath. We don't know how deep it is or anything like that. You know, the core's never been found. So
here's one. NASA. Apparently NASA have never really took a real picture of the Earth. Everything they do has to be doctored for us to see. Is that true?
Yep, absolutely. The only picture that they claim is an actual photograph of the Earth is the famous one from 1972. You know, the one with Africa in very much in the center, really, and that's the only one they say is a real picture of Earth. Okay, every one of the others is Photoshop, and we've got the guy who creates it for NASA saying, well, it is Photoshop. It has to be, you know.
Simmons' job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
To us, the really cool thing was the data set. Up until that point, there was no realistic color map of the globe anywhere.
So the land layer here comes from
the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer aboard Terra.
And the tricky part here was the weather.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it was a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command-Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
And the only real one that they say is a real photograph was shot from Apollo. I think it's Apollo 14. Was it Apollo 14? Yeah, Apollo 14. Now we've got an old reel of film from Apollo 11 of them faking taking a picture of the Earth. Okay, there's no doubt about them that what they're doing. It's actually Neil Armstrong. You can recognize them. Yeah,
I've seen it.
Right, and they're literally using the porthole and pretending that's the Earth.
Can I tell you what it's called?
Sorry?
I'll tell you what it's called. So, for all the viewers that might want to watch this, many years ago when I was first introduced to 9/11 being apparently an inside job, of course, that blew my mind. I couldn't get my head around it until I learnt more and investigated. Then they hit me with the moon landings. And I was like, don't be stupid. Of course we went to the moon. Of course we did. Don't disrespect this. But anyway, I watched 2 documentaries. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon. And astronauts gone wild. Check them out and you'll understand what really happened. And it shows you them faking the Earth being really far away by putting something over their window. I've seen that. Yeah.
But, I mean, they say they go to the moon, but they won't swear on the Bible on it because they run away when you put a Bible in front of them and say swear that you've been to the moon. They get very offensive about that.
They're faking a shot of being halfway to the moon. And they refer to you on the tape as a shot that was done during Apollo 10, where you put a transparency over the window and moved the camera of the Earth and moved the camera back away from the window, turned off the lights in the spacecraft, and appeared to be halfway to the moon when in fact they were in Earth orbit.
Huh, really?
Yeah, and they said it was the same way that you did it on Apollo 10. So we wanted to give you the opportunity to put your left hand on the Bible, to raise your right hand, to swear to God.
Stick it in your...
Well, you were giving an opportunity to swear to God under oath that you walked on the moon.
I don't do that.
Well, if you really walked on the moon, what's the problem of swearing to God that you did? Do you believe in God?
You want me to knock you in the head?
Well, I want you to swear to God on the Bible that you walked on the moon. If you walked on the moon, we're given the opportunity to swear to God that you walked on the moon.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to get the hell knocked out of you if you don't leave me alone.
But I mean, despite what, like, you know, I mean, we know that a lot of things are doctored, like the NASA stuff's doctored, and space exploration is maybe doctored in a lot of ways, make us believe in certain things like that. But I mean, it's an interesting theory that, you know, it divides so many people out there, this flat Earth and round Earth, and many people are at each other's, you know, they do argue a lot over it. I mean, in the big scale of things, is it, you know, there is a sphere of sorts over the top, even though it could be a flat Earth or it could be completely round. It doesn't matter to what's happening on the actual planet. That's right. At all. It would be interesting to find out. Now, I like your theory of the flat Earth in relation to if there was, because we know there's lots of underground tunnels, you know, around the very deep underground tunnels. It could be staggered like a block of flats, you know, because like I say, what's, you know, if it's flat, what's underneath it? What is actually on the underside? Well, you can only speculate, so can we.
Well, there is something. That Go Fast rocket I mentioned, right? It got up to 75 miles, and all of a sudden, because it was going like the clappers up there, and all of a sudden hit 75 miles and went dunk, and it stopped, and then fell back. Yeah. So if it was a solid barrier, it would have smashed against that barrier. Yeah. Destroyed, but it just went dunk and stopped and then fell back, right? There's a video you can find. It was I think it was a Discovery Channel video of a guy taking a mini sub, like one of those mini sub rover things, down to the deepest part of the ocean.
Yeah, the Mariana Trench.
Yes, and he found at the bottom of the ocean was like an underwater lake. There was like this dark water, and it was rippling on the top, and it was lapping against the shore.
Underwater river.
And he said, right, and he said he wanted to sink the sub into that water, yeah, and he said the thing bounced off it. Yeah, he tried to submerge it, and it wouldn't let him.
One of the strangest places on the ocean's floor was only just discovered in the 1990s. I might agree it's one of a handful of people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen in the bottom of the ocean. It was while filming for Blue Planet. It was in the Gulf of Mexico. And I noticed there's something out in the distance. Couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut that was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend in it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down in it. We literally bounced off, and as we bounced off, we sent ripples heading back to the shoreline.
So it looks like there's a limit that to the as far as we can go up, and a limit as far as we can go down. So we don't know what the hell is beyond this. Personally, I think there is nothing beyond it. I think we live in a bubble of 3D space and time, and there's nothing outside it, because that would sort of imply 3D space and time. Yeah, just like asking the question, what's on the other side of the universe? Well, it can't be more space, because then that would be universe. Yeah, so it's got
the
to be
universe is continuously expanding.
Yes, but what's it expanding into? It can't be expanding into space, because then that would be space.
I've said it for years.
I'll just say then, guys, I know for me, from what I've come across, and you know, I don't think about this stuff too much, but what I would say is, if I could explain to people why, another reason why they might have done this, ultimately now I will sit there all day and preach that we are spiritual beings, or supposed to be, and the leader or the rulers of the world, these authoritarians, elites, whatever, they are trying to remove that from us, the heart, mind and soul and consciousness, whatever. So if we had to believe in Darwin's theory, which we know isn't true anyway, because it was only ever a theory, and even Darwin never writ that we actually came from monkeys. He just writ there's similar sort of creatures to us, if people read it correctly. What's happened in the world for a long time, they've tried to make it simplified, so we don't question too much, we don't think too much, crack on with our jobs and whatnot. And if we had to believe the earth was just round and we evolved, then our mind can be settled at that. If there is more to us and we are possibly spiritual beings, or this creator created this special domed earth thing for just us humanity, but it's been hijacked by this whatever, then there's something more behind it. There's definitely something behind it all. So there's a lot of people that love doing their research. You might want to take a few hours off the normal COV situation, have a look into this, because there's hours and hours worth of things to look at. I had a bit of fun.
Though less now that the social media platforms have hidden all the flat Earth material. But you're right. What they've done and why they've done this, yeah, is if you combine the globe Earth theory with the Big Bang theory and the theory of evolution, that renders each one of us down to a blob of goo on a speck of dust, hurtling through an infinite, uncaring, unimportant universe that came about by accident. Yeah, we've got no purpose. There is no purpose to life, right? And that's it. There's no one in control. Okay, but if you know that you are the chief of the creations in a created place that was created for you to live in, yeah, then nobody, right? Well, first of all, there has to be a creator that did it, right? So, well, hang on, there's a creator, but then that makes you one step below the creator. Nobody can insert themselves above you. You're one step below that creator. In a ball model, right, with all those three theories, right, there's no creator. That means, and there's no purpose for your life. That means rich, powerful people in the world can now insert themselves above you and say, you do as I say. I'm more important than you. I've got more money. I've got all this land. I've got this, that, and the other. I'm more important than you. You do as I say. And that's what they've done. They've reduced us to nothing, yeah, to insignificance, and then raise themselves up to be significant. And now we do as they say.
Now, that's really interesting. That is extremely interesting. But throughout history, it's always changed from one to the other. Now, why would they do it?
Can I just jump in there, Mark? I'll jump in there. Because obviously, going back to my Aryan video a few weeks back, and being the bloodline of this elite that runs the globe, possibly that came from the Atlantean race. What it is, Germanic and the Norse tribes were the ones that went around the globe spreading one side of it. And then you had all the other people and cultures and whatnot that were generally in their still frame of mind. They have an island, they live in an island, you get to the end, you got water. And that was the way they drew their maps because they couldn't really travel. So during them times, it was vastly spread, and the mass of the globe was following the understanding of what was being proven about the spiritual understanding of flat earth and stuff. And of course, there've been forever debates, but it seems to be this bloodline that hijacked the earth, which hijacked a lot of cultures and hijacked a lot of beliefs and hijacked everything else one by one until they have got to this point where we are today. And we're supposed to think it's a multi-run world. It's not. They have literally got their positions in every part of the globe or every corner of the globe, whichever way we look at it. So,
Exactly. No, all cultures knew this was a flat earth. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the ancient ones. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and as Ricardo said, there's a bloodline that's been trying to push this ball earth model, and as I said, they finally got it in 500 years ago, and they've been pushing it ever since. And they essentially made up NASA, right? This whole moon race thing to silence the whole debate, and that's what happened.
Dave, you'll love this. Dave, you'll love this. If you go back on my wall a few weeks ago, me and Mark did a video called Dinosaurs. I found out that the Masonic Renaissance in 1826 was the first time in history the word dinosaur was ever used, and the first time they ever went to look for bones, apparently. And still to today, not one museum on this planet has a full dinosaur fossil structure. So they're almost made up, just after it's all crazy.
It's the age-old thing, isn't it? Is there life out there? It's to make people to go and not realise they're standing next to you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that. It's the old confusion, isn't it? And that's why they've done it. It's just to confuse people. They flip the script and keep people confused, and that's why they're still there today.
Mark, what I want to say is what I've always said to people, from my opinion. When I had friends that were around here and we've discussed, flat earth and globe, and I was just shut them down, give them a few things that I knew. I'd always say that the 4 pillars, apparently, that we talk about within religious terms of flat earth theories and stuff, I always said it was banking, religious structure, the monarchy structure, and the government structures. They've always been there, the hierarchy. And ancient Sumeria, which is the oldest civilization as far as we're supposed to be concerned at the planet, even they did drawings and whatnot of it being a flat realm and having these different heaven levels and the underneath part. Very, very strange stuff. But, they were meant to be the masters of cosmology and the universe. They're the ones who started it all.
Here's something. Oh, sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, here's something that everyone can do, right? If they're near a beach, okay, go to the beach, right? Find a sign that's been put up by the beach, right? And line the bottom of the sign up to the horizon, okay? And just go side to side, keeping the horizon at the bottom of the sign. You'll see that horizon is completely flat and level. All right. Now, your horizon, when you look out, your horizon is, if you're 6 foot tall, your horizon is 3 miles away. Okay. Again, there's something you can look up.
So
literally
mine's about
3 miles away. A short ass, yeah. So literally, it's okay. It's around about 3 miles away. So, according to their model, right, you can watch a boat go out to sea and go over the curve, right? And that curve is 3 miles away, right? So when you look across at the sea, if you look to the left and then to the right, you're looking over over a span way more than 3 miles. Yeah. And so you should be able to see a curvature that's big enough to hide a boat behind. Yeah. Just by looking, but you can't find it.
Yeah.
You can use the sign to verify that you're not seeing any curvature whatsoever, but yet you're supposed to see there's enough curvature for a boat to disappear behind over 3 miles.
I think really the water's the best way of doing most tests, isn't it? Because we know land is all over the shop anyway. So
yeah,
if we look at it from the water point of view and people have done tests on the waters, it's probably the safest way of doing an official test, really, in my opinion.
Right.
And
also that 3 mile, that boat going over the horizon. Well, that's the oldest proof, 500-year-old proof that we're on a ball. But when you see that boat go over the horizon, you know, get out your trusty P900 camera, yeah, all right, zoom in on it, and all of a sudden the boat comes back. It didn't go anywhere. It was just an optical illusion. And at that level of zoom, you can watch it go over the horizon again, zoom in some more, it comes back. It never goes away. It goes, you can do that to the limit of the zoom. And
there's the test, everyone.
Back.
That's the test. That is the test.
It's a good test. I like that. Definitely like that.
So in relation to you saying that we're inside this globe, which you say is inside this globe, that means that all alien life already existed on Earth. Or is there a way in? Is there a way out? Is there something?
Mark, I will say, I have seen on the night, one of the things I had come across is that, like Dave explained about us being in this kind of big, humongous lake with ice walls. If you imagine that ice going out further, then there's another sort of Earth over there, but being in the ice, like another lake. And apparently the Anunnaki come from one of them realms.
I've seen maps of that.
I've seen that, and that's why they came here and started to do buildings and whatnot to leave a bit of stuff behind. Again, how true that is, I don't know, but I just thought it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's one model that people propose. I don't sort of go with speculation. You know, I know that according to Admiral Byrd, there's more land, you know, beyond the ice. But I subscribe to there being a dome over the top because of what I've explained to you. There's no such thing as you know, aliens as such, because there's no space. There are no other planets to land on. Yeah, there's no such thing. But these entities have always been here. Now, when you find out,
know that.
Yeah, when you find out who was behind the Roswell incident, right? The Roswell incident was the thing that brought aliens into the mass consciousness. Yeah. You find out that behind the Roswell incident were Jack Parsons, who started JPL, and L. Ron Hubbard. Okay.
L. Ron Hubbard, but he's Scientology. I know all about that sneaky git. Don't you worry.
Right. Well, both of those guys were disciples of Aleister Crowley. And if you look at Aleister Crowley's book, I think it's the Book of the Law. Yeah. In it, he draws one of the demons he conjured up. Yeah.
Corazon.
A character called Lamb.
Oh, Lamb, not Corazon.
No, this one is called Lamb. Yeah. No. This being called Lamb, he conjured up. Okay.
The problem is, Dave, at the moment, if anybody out there looks into anything to do with these things, you get labelled at the moment. It's ridiculous. But you've got to study them, haven't you, to see.
Yeah. So if you look at what this character Lamb looks like, he's an alien grey. He looks exactly like an alien grey.
Well, we're doing a good old talk in the next couple of days about greys, aren't we? Can't wait for that one.
So literally, when Aleister Crowley died, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard carried on his experiments, and they were conjuring up. They called it Babylon Rising or something, or Babylon Working or something like that. Yeah. And they were conjuring up these beings, these demons. Yeah. Aleister Crowley said these beings, they've been called demons, they've been called nature spirits, they've been called all sorts of names, and he said tomorrow they'll be known as something else. So we know them now as aliens. Yeah. They mold themselves to the society that they find themselves in.
That's it.
There are,
it seems to be something that's going on.
There are many races out there. I mean, I watched footage a little while ago about an Australian archaeologist who's been digging around Uluru as part of my research and everything like that into the lost continent of Mu. And around Uluru, he found 5 different species that were nothing to do with us, buried around Uluru. And he said they were so far out there, the bone structure of these species that he found. And the Australian government threatened to put him in the prison for 10 years, give him £1 million fine if he goes anywhere near it again. Yeah, he's not allowed to dig there at all. But he found these weird structural beings. Now, we look at things like the Nephilim, for instance, which are these giants of the land. I personally believe they lived on the continent of Mu. I personally believe that they moved the continent of Mu. I don't know where, but it was connected to Easter Island, which is where the giant statues are. So how do you feel about all these beings like the Pleiadians, all living out in, like Richard says, and in a circle outside of this ice wall? If in fact there's many inner circles outside, do you think that's a possibility?
I don't think there's many inner circle. This Earth replicated many times. I don't believe that personally. Again, I think we're in an enclosed area. Yes, there may be more land beyond the ice, but I think it comes to a finite end, and we get the dome. The Nephilim, right? Well, I've been studying the Old Testament, and yes, I believe the Nephilim existed. I believe that the bloodline of the Nephilim are still here today, and they're the ruling class. The ruling class, the ones that are out to murder 7 billion people right now. They're the Nephilim who hate humanity. So yes, because of what happened in the Old Testament, yes, there were these other beings. There were these half human, half half animal creatures. All sorts of genetic engineering was happening back in those days, in the days of Noah. Yeah. So yes, these strange skeletons are found everywhere. But as soon as they're found, the Smithsonian Institute or the Vatican swoops in and takes the bones away, and you never hear about them again.
That's it.
Yeah, they're the first on the site. They're the first to look at any site there, every single time. But we've got such a I mean, we know how manipulation works. So like Richard explained earlier on with the dinosaurs, with using plaster casts, and they fooled everybody into it, believing and everything like that. I mean, I'm sure they've done the same with bodies and skeletal remains and everything like that, because you've got people that are sort of that tall, and you've got people that are 30 foot tall and everything like that. But for sure, there is a lot more out there than what we see. And you don't find like grey bodies. You don't find stuff like that. Not many join around. And what you do find is always they're all different. You don't find the same sort of thing, if you know what I mean. They're always a slight adjustment or slight difference. Is that so? Do you reckon that they never know what exactly they look like? They always bring out a slightly different version, so we can't go, that's it.
Well, I think there were all sorts of things that were created and bred into existence. But I think the whole of this religion of science has been about making us believe that we live in a physical nuts and bolts world, where only their laws come into play. Yeah, the point is we live in a supernatural world, where all sorts of things are happening, all sorts of things are possible, right? But they'll tell us, no, don't look at that stuff. That's.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh,
yeah, he's
gone my side as well. We know Dave is his signal. Are you there, Dave?
No.
Oh, they're both gone. Are you there, Mark?
I am here.
Oh, well,
can you hear me?
I've lost Dave. Well, it's just been about now anyway. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll call it there. We'll have a chat with Dave, make sure, obviously, we're getting back. So there's a lot of people that love to hear off Dave. So we've only just met Dave ourselves, guys. I do apologise. Not sure what happened there. They've got flashes going on here. Yeah, let's try again.
Yeah,
it's gone.
What happened there?
God knows. But don't worry. We know he's in the middle of the sticks. So his signal, he did say here and there.
I mean, it's so interesting, like when you sit there and listen to it, because I just wanted to sit there and listen. Really, I wanted to be an umpire tonight and just watch you two smack off each other and everything like that. You know, not in an argumentative way, but bounce the knowledge across. And I wanted to sit there and have it go through there. You know what I mean? But it's so interesting, the diversity of people's thoughts and feelings on everything. You know, that's part of the confusion of this world. I think he's back. But that's part of the confusion of this world, is that so many people have so many different views and opinions on things, and you can never, ever try and agree on something. And that's part of humanity, is putting the objective of choice out there to confuse people. You know, some people, I'll only wear Adidas trainers, I'll only wear Nike or whatever. You know, the diversity of choice is absolutely fantastic out there. That's another part of this causing a divide. The only way we can get rid of that is all to come together and agree that there's one person out there that's against all of us, and that we can agree on, can't we, Dave?
Yeah, I say there's a whole bloodline that's against us.
Exactly, and they're all the same. They're one target. We are all a target of them.
And they're not entirely human either.
No, we agree on that too.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is, it's in the Old Testament. Who these characters are? Yeah, they're, as I said, they're the Nephilim. They're the offspring of human and fallen angel, and essentially, I mean, they admit it almost all the time as well. You know, the royalty say they have the blood of the gods. Yeah, which gods are they talking about? You know, so yes, this has been a we live in a constructed reality. Yeah, they've made this reality for us to believe is real, but it's not. Yeah, it's a fantasy Disneyland. You know, if you're not awake and you're not actively looking and asking questions, you'll just believe you live in Disneyland. You know, everything is just so, and there's explanations for everything, and you know, you'll live your whole life in complete and utter ignorance.
Yeah, Dave. Throughout the talk, we've had quite a few people texting, putting comments about yourself, saying, "Please try and get you back as well." Again, another point. Now, we will obviously, if you would come back at some point, we'll have a talk about other things that are going on in the world today. Obviously, you know your stuff. Tonight was just a bit of the flat Earth talk, so we could show people that even if you haven't got a decision, or even if you are on one side of the fence, people should be able to get on, talk about things. And of course, we know we've been lied to in this world we're living in about so many things. It wouldn't be surprising to me which one was which. You know, I know they've lied about so many things. It's one of them. I
think it's important that people put, you know, you've got flat earthers, you've got donut earthers, you've got round earthers, and everything like that. Yeah, it's not important right now. We're being attacked, and we need to put those differences aside, and any other differences that are out there. You need to put them all aside. Yeah, take all those divides, just shut them aside. Have the row after if you want to have the row after. But for now, we need to put them aside and concentrate on what is actually against us.
Yeah,
and that's a greater threat.
Yes, and you know what? If we fail to stand up to that threat, yeah, life will not be worth living. It's be intolerable. You know,
humanity's last chance, guys. So, Dave, we really appreciate having some time with you tonight. Sorry we didn't get on as early as we should have. We should have had more time. But obviously, we didn't make it as early as we could. But Dave said he'll come back, guys, and we'll have a good chat with Dave and put some ideas in the comments if there's any specific subjects and whatnot. And thank you, everyone. Much love, Dave. Much love, Mark.
Take care.
Let's do this. Speak again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
See you later, guys.